The fluorescent lights of the empty office floor flickered as Marcus. Chen stood alone in his corner suite, staring at the laptop sitting on his desk. It wasn't his. The name tag attached to the worn black case read, Sarah Mitchell, Accounting Department, 3rd floor. He'd found it in the conference room after everyone had left, abandoned in the rush of a Friday evening. Most CEOs would have left it for Monday. Most billionaires wouldn't have given it a second thought. But Marcus Chen wasn't most people, and something about that laptop, battered, covered in stickers of cartoon characters and motivational quotes, told him a story he couldn't ignore. Sarah Mitchell was halfway through reading The Very Hungry Caterpillar to her 5-year-old daughter, Emma, when the panic hit her like a freight train. Her laptop. The presentation. Due Monday morning. First thing. Her hands trembled as she set down the book, her mind racing through the catastrophic implications. She'd spent 3 weeks on that market analysis, working late nights after Emma fell asleep, typing quietly in the dark, so she wouldn't wake her daughter in their tiny one-bedroom apartment. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Emma's brown eyes, so much like her father's, the father who'd left them 2 years ago when single. Parenthood got too real, searched her face with that uncanny perception children have when their parents' world is crumbling. "Nothing, sweetheart," Sarah lied, pulling her daughter close. "Mommy just forgot something at work." "It's okay. We'll figure it out." But it wasn't okay. The office building would be locked until Monday. Security wouldn't let her in, even if she could afford the $40 Uber ride there and back. And she couldn't afford it. Not with Emma's pediatrician appointment next week and the electricity bill that had arrived that morning, stamped with a red warning about disconnection. Sarah tucked Emma into bed, singing her favorite lullaby while her mind calculated and recalculated impossible mathematics. She could ask her supervisor for an extension, but Linda had already granted her 2 deadline adjustments. This quarter, when Emma had the flu, she could recreate the presentation from memory, but her notes, her research, her carefully constructed graphs, all of it lived on that laptop she'd been too, exhausted to remember. At 43 years old, Sarah had learned that life didn't offer safety. Nets to single mothers working, paycheck to paycheck. One mistake could cost you everything, and she'd just made a big one. Marcus stood in his penthouse apartment, the laptop still in his hand. His assistant had left hours ago. His driver had been dismissed for the evening. The reasonable thing would be to call building security, have them lock it up and return it Monday morning. But he kept thinking about those stickers. "You've got this, Mama," one proclaimed in cheerful letters. Another showed a stick figure woman juggling a briefcase, a child, and a coffee cup, with the caption, "Supermom mode activated." He opened his company database and pulled up Sarah Mitchell's employee file. Single parent. Listed as emergency contact, none. Started 3 years ago as a temporary data entry clerk. Worked her way up to junior analyst. Performance reviews were exceptional. Her supervisors' notes mentioned extraordinary dedication and often works beyond required hours. There was a flag in her file from HR. She'd declined the company health insurance because she couldn't afford the employee contribution, opting instead for the state program. Marcus had built his fortune in commercial real estate, turning a modest inheritance into a billion-dollar empire. He'd been featured in Forbes, Business Insider, and the Wall Street Journal. People called him ruthless, calculating, brilliant. They didn't know that he'd been raised by a single mother who'd worked 3 jobs to keep him fed. They didn't know about the nights. He'd done homework by streetlight because the electricity had been shut off. They didn't know that every empire has a foundation, and his was built on the memory of a woman who'd sacrificed everything so he could have a chance. He looked at the laptop again. Then he grabbed his car keys. Sarah was staring at her ceiling, running through worst-case scenarios, when her doorbell rang at 9:30. Her heart jumped. Nobody rang her doorbell at 9:30 on a Friday night. Nobody rang her doorbell ever, really, except the occasional package delivery or the landlord with his perpetually disappointed face. She crept to the door, checking through the peephole. A man stood there in an expensive-looking coat, holding something. Her laptop. She recognized her laptop. But she didn't recognize the man except, wait. She looked harder. No, it couldn't be. Sarah opened the door with the chain still attached. "Can I help you?" "Ms. Mitchell? I'm Marcus Chen. You forgot this in the conference room." He held up her laptop, and she saw his face clearly now. It was definitely him, Marcus Chen. The Marcus Chen. The man whose photograph hung in the lobby, whose company name was on her paycheck, whose net worth was probably more than her entire neighborhood would earn in a lifetime. How did you... Why are you... Words failed her completely. "May I come in for just a moment? I promise I'm not here to cause any trouble. I just thought you might need this over the weekend." Sarah's instincts warred with her desperation. The laptop won. She unchained the door. Marcus stepped into the small apartment, and Sarah saw her home through his eyes. The second-hand furniture, the stack of bills on the counter, the laundry basket doubling as a coffee table, Emma's drawings taped to every available wall surface. Shame burned her cheeks, but she lifted her chin. This was her home. She kept it clean. She kept her daughter fed and loved. She had nothing to be ashamed of. "I'm sorry for the intrusion," Marcus said, handing her the laptop. "I saw this in the conference room and checked the name. I pulled up your file to find your address. I hope that's not too invasive, but I thought you might need it urgently." "The presentation," Sarah whispered, clutching the laptop to her chest like a life preserver. "It's due Monday. I've been working on it for weeks. I can't thank you enough, Mr. Chen. I don't know what I would have done. I couldn't afford..." She stopped herself. "You didn't tell billionaires about your money problems. I just really needed this." "Thank you." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. "May I ask you something, Ms. Mitchell?" "Of course. Why didn't you take our health insurance?" The question caught her off guard. Her face flushed. "The employee contribution was $200 a month. I couldn't. Emma's daycare costs almost as much as my rent. I'm on a payment plan for her last emergency room visit when she broke her arm. I just couldn't make it work. But you're here every night until 7, according to building security logs. You're working on projects above your pay grade. Your supervisor says you're the most dedicated analyst in the department." "I'm trying to get promoted," Sarah said simply. "And I'm trying to give my daughter a better life than I had. That takes time and work." Marcus nodded slowly. "I understand that better than you might think." He paused, seeming to wrestle with something. "My mother raised me alone. 3 jobs, no health insurance, no safety net. She worked herself to exhaustion so I could have opportunities. She died of cancer at 53 because she ignored symptoms for 2 years, afraid of medical bills she couldn't pay." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry." "Don't be sorry. Be better than me." Marcus's voice was rough with emotion. "I've built this company, made all this money, and I've been so focused on quarterly earnings and market share that I forgot the people who actually make it all work. People like you. People like my mother was." "Mr. Chen..." "Come back Tuesday," he interrupted. "Not Monday. Take the weekend with your daughter, and when you come back Tuesday, come to my office. We're making some changes, starting with health insurance that doesn't require employee contributions, family leave that's actually sufficient, childcare stipends, and a promotion for you to senior analyst with a 30% salary increase, effective immediately." Sarah couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what she was hearing. "You've earned it," Marcus continued. "Your work is exceptional. But more than that, you remind me why I started this company in the first place. Not to make billions, to create opportunities, to be the kind of employer my mother never had." "I don't know what to say," Sarah managed, tears streaming down her face. "Say you'll help me redesign our benefits program. Say you'll tell me what employees really need, not what looks good in a press release. Say you'll let me try to honor my mother's memory by making sure no one in this company has to choose between their health and their rent." A small voice came from the bedroom doorway. "Mommy, why are you crying?" Emma stood there in her princess pajamas, clutching her stuffed bunny, eyes wide with concern. Sarah knelt down and opened her arms, and Emma ran into them. "These are happy tears, baby," Sarah whispered. "Very, very happy tears." Marcus watched them, this mother and daughter, in their tiny apartment, full of love and hope and drawings, taped to the walls, and he felt something shift in his chest. All the money, all the success, all the accolades, none of it meant anything compared to the look on Sarah Mitchell's face in that moment. I should go, he said quietly. But I meant everything I said. Tuesday, my office. And Ms. Mitchell, thank you for reminding me what success really looks like. As Marcus drove home through the city streets, past buildings he owned and developments he'd financed, he thought about legacy, about what his mother would say if she could see him now, about how easy it is to forget, where you came from when you're focused on where you're going, about a laptop with stick figure stickers and the woman who'd worked late into the night on it, trying to build a better life for her daughter. The next morning, he called an emergency meeting with his executive team. By Monday, they'd drafted new policies. By the end of the month, every employee would have fully covered health insurance, childcare assistance, and emergency funds for families in crisis. It would cost the company millions annually. It would be worth every penny. Sarah Mitchell did get that promotion. She did redesign the benefits program, bringing the perspective of someone who'd lived paycheck to paycheck, who understood what families really needed. But more than that, she became a friend and advisor to Marcus Chen, someone who could remind him that businesses are built by people, not profit margins. Emma grew up knowing that sometimes, when the world feels dark and impossible, someone might ring your doorbell with the exact thing you need. She learned that kindness isn't about grand gestures, it's about paying attention, about seeing people, about remembering where you came from and who helped you along the way. And Marcus? He learned that the best investment he'd ever made wasn't in real estate or stock portfolios. It was in people, in Sarah Mitchell and hundreds of employees like her, who just needed someone to see their worth, their struggle, their humanity. Because at the end of the day, we're all just people trying to do our best, trying to take care of the ones we love, hoping that when we forget our laptop at work, someone will care enough to bring it home.